Say, praise the Lord. Okay. We're talking about inheritance. Say inheritance. We're talking about, some people call it transfer of wealth. Now, I'm going to talk tonight about one requirement. Without this, there's no way we can participate in what Jesus rightfully secured for us. And that is growth and maturity. Say growth and maturity. Without growth and maturity, you can be given a huge amount of inheritance by the Lord. You're just going to lose it. Okay? Now, God is not a wasteful God. He's very abundant. He's very prodigal in the way He takes care of us, but He's never wasteful. He's not stingy. He doesn't, how do you call that? When you count even the last penny, there's a term for that. Not miser. I forgot. Penny picking or something like that. There's a term that they use. God is not like that, you know. I mean, if you will notice, for example, I like this illustration that there's so many banana trees in the forest, the monkeys can't finish them all, you know. But God doesn't care. There's a certain amount of abundance that God wants His people to enjoy. In the Garden of Eden, you see it. There are only two individuals, Adam and Eve, and yet the abundance of fruit-bearing trees. Okay? Now, but the thing though is this, for you to partake and to fully benefit and grow whatever God is giving to you, it needs growth and maturity. Let's turn to Galatians chapter 4, starting on verse 1. Now I say, as long as the heir is a child, he does not differ at all from a slave. Even if you're an heir, if you are just a child, no difference with a slave. Although he is owner of everything, it doesn't change the fact you're still owner of everything. But he is under guardians and managers until the date set by the father. The father will be the mature one here, okay? So the father, being a responsible person, said, whatever I own, you have. However, because I am grown up and I am mature, I'm not going to let you touch it. You'll be provided for, but there's going to be a guardian. There's going to be a manager of your estate. I'm not going to let you touch it. That's a mature father right there, okay? So also we, now that is the application. While we were children, we were held in bondage under the elemental things of this world. Now remember, the term bondage is relative to the previous term slave. If you're a slave, you're under bondage. But they're not literally under bondage. It's just like they're acting like, living like slaves, under the elemental things of the world. But when the fullness of the time came, God sent forth His Son, born of a woman, born under the law, so that He might redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. Now this is interesting because slave, child, immaturity to maturity. Paul said, when Jesus came, if I will use the precedent statement, what Paul is saying, when Jesus came, He brought in maturity and growth to faith, such that we no longer have to be under the law, so that He might redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. Because you are sons, God has sent forth the Spirit of His Son into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Therefore, you are no longer a slave, but a son, and if a son, then an heir through God. Now, the issue of receiving your inheritance or walking as heirs of God is very clear in Galatians. The Galatians have come to a crossroad of faith. Now, these people have been redeemed. They started in the Spirit. They started by faith. They started by the grace of God. as I was saying earlier, a little bit of victory sometimes, if you don't know how to handle this, a little bit of confidence can be very harmful, So, the Galatians found out they have the fruit of the Spirit. They can operate in the gifts of the Spirit, like the Corinthians. But boy, they are immature. And so somebody began to tell them, well, it's because of your hard work, it's because of your education, because of the skills of your own hands. It's like Israel. They were still immature. They say that, well, it's because of the might of our hands that we were able to defeat the enemy. They begin to take the glory away from the Lord and took it upon themselves. That's immature. When you are taking credits for what you did not do, that is immature. That's why in the New Testament, give honor to whom it is due. That's a mature way to do it. So the Galatians came to this crossroad, and they decided they will let go of faith. So Paul was very upset because Paul said, I gave you the right path, I taught you the right doctrines, and now you are abandoning it. And he said this, you morons, you idiots. That's what Paul said. Because they're acting like children. Sometimes you look at a child reason and you say, this child is an idiot. A child look at a very shiny thing, a sweet thing, and the dad says, son, I can give you something better. But the child is a child, immature. He said, I want the candy. And the child says, son, if you don't eat the candy, I'm going to bring you to a nice restaurant, sumptuous meal, a lot better. I want the candy. Son, I can buy you 100 candies. Candy is 50 cents. I'm going to bring you to a restaurant. Your meal is probably going to cost $20 over 50 cents. And the son is so immature, so idiotic, he said, I want my candy. That's immature, you see. And we come sometimes to a crossroad in our faith wherein we have the tendency to display our immaturity. You can only hide so much, really. You can appear. Who is this? The story that I like about Albert Einstein. There were no internet and quick photography that we have today, and no mass communication that we have today. So he is traveling all over with his driver, and his driver have heard his lecture on the theory of relativity, have heard the questions, heard the answers a million times. One day Einstein said, well, I'm tired, I don't want to really teach. And he told the driver, well, they don't really know me, so why don't you do the lecture, the place they're going? And the driver says, what if they ask questions? Well, you have heard all the questions. You memorized the answers. What if they ask a question of this I don't know? Well, just tell them you're tired, and so the driver will answer the question. That's Einstein. So they were in this lecture, and a question was asked that he doesn't know. So he said, well, I'm tired. The driver says, I'm going to call my driver to answer the question. What happened? He was confronted with a question that requires real growth and maturity in the theory of relativity. It shows up. By the way, all of us can fake it. We can appear spiritual. We can appear mature. We can appear we know it. Boy, we can really fake it. But you will be confronted with an issue in life that requires real maturity and real growth. It will show. It will show. And this is what happened with the Galatians. Been born again for 2 or 3 years. I mean, these guys are phenomenal. They experience the grace of God. But then, maturity is required in this crossroad. And one of the reasons why they start considering alternative routes is lack of patience. They cannot understand or easily receive that it takes maturity and growth on the part of an heir to receive the inheritance. Impatience is part of immaturity. Have you ever wanted something and your parents said, wait a little bit, a new technology is coming, a new bag is coming, I want it now. That's immaturity. And then the new thing came out and you say, I don't like it now. When my kids wants to buy toys when they were growing up, I want it now. As a son, we can move to another store. No, I want it now. And they get it, and then they regret it. They won't even play with it. You see? Impatience is part of a maturity. Now, patience, growth in patience. Growth in patience is necessary for us to inherit the kingdom. You know? And in the Philippines, when a young lady or a young man started falling in love, and they're elementary or high school, and they don't know anything yet, they have no money. So the mother will normally chide the daughter or chide the son and tell the daughter, daughter, you're in high school. You're not gonna run out of men. Hindi mawalan ng lalaki. But the young lady is so impatient. Oh, I love him. I want to marry. I want to spend her. You don't know him. Hindi ka maubusan ng lalaki. Became very impatient. Decided go on with the love. At the end, regret it. You see, that's impatience. That's why there are certain things that requires maturity. If you are negotiating, me and my wife are, I know what we were looking at something the other day, and I look at that and I said, I like it. And my wife says, stop saying I like it, you know. Because you keep saying I like it, we will not get a good price. That's why you need to learn how to play poker face sometimes. Sometimes people are, you know, you went to a store, a spouse, you know, when you look at this, don't show interest, because you're, and he don't talk. He's not talking, but his eyes. What happened? You can't negotiate anymore. Impatience. You see, part of growth and maturity, part is patience. Part of receiving the inheritance is you have to be patient. Now, from what we read, if you are young, you will be placed under a manager. The prodigal son, what happened to him? Impatience. He is so young, he cannot handle the wealth. So what happened? Give it to me now. He lost everything. Instead of growing the inheritance, he lost everything. You know. Telling you, there are stories that I really like about this. I told you about the Soriano San Miguel Corporation. They were already making money. And the children, they were having dinner. The children says, Dad, can we not buy a better house? Can we not buy a better car? The father says, children, we can buy a better house right now. We have the millions. We can buy better cars right now. We have the money. But that's our capital. If you wait a little bit longer, give me a few more years. When I have grown this business the way I want to, you can buy any house you want. You can buy any car you want. And the children, with taught patience, they say, okay. And so now they're some of the richest family, and not only richest family in the Philippines. They're really good managers. They have learned the business. But if you don't have the patience, so that's why, you know, sometimes promotion, we like the idea of being promoted right away, but sometimes, man, if you don't know what you're being promoted into, you don't know what you're going to do the moment you are there. Status in the family has nothing to do with your maturity or growth. Not because you are a son, it doesn't mean you are mature. Because the moment you are a son, you are an heir, there is this aura. Oh, that's the heir. You know, that's the son. I think it was Joseph or John. Somebody told them when they were kids. Sometimes I think they're still kids, you know. But when they were kids, somebody told them, oh, you can do anything that you want in the church. Why? Because your dad is the pastor. That's an immature comment. So one of them came to me and said, hey, Papa, we were told that we can do whatever we want in the church because we are your sons. I said, try it. Will they get the message right away? That's why I am more strict with my family than with anybody else. Why? They're my kids. They're my kids. They will be under a lot of pressure. I'm passing on faith to them. I'm passing on something to them. If they don't have the maturity or the responsibility to handle it, they will not be able to perpetuate whatever we have, you know. Now think about it, you guys who came from the Philippines, what your parents gave to you. Most of you, you're able to grow it. There might not be that much. Look, the only thing that my father gave me was education. I grew it, you know. All he did was gave me college education. Transferred to me the rigors of hard work and patience. Well, that's what I have. I have grown it. I have more than what my father had. I have more education than college degree. Meaning, I was given a capital. That is my inheritance from my father because he was poor. I have grown it. But some people say, well, bahala na, walang kwenta yan. They lost it. I told you about a former lieutenant of the Philippine Army. His dad was Lieutenant General Fortunato Abad. If you guys in my time know him, he was the army chief of the Philippine Armed Forces. Well, his son graduated from Philippine Military Academy, PMA, you know. And so he was sent to Mindanao. There was a hit of a fight between the Philippine Armed Forces and the Muslims and the rebels in Mindanao. First encounter, his platoon, he's a platoon leader, a lieutenant is a platoon leader, you know. Captain will be a company commander. So he was a platoon leader and was leading the platoon. He wanted to show off. He graduated from PMA, but very immature, very proud, very arrogant. His sergeant told him, "Sir, why don't we send a private to scout, to be the lead scout? They are entering a territory that looks like there's a trap. Fortunato Abad, my son, my father is the commander, is the chief of the Philippine Army. He wants a fast promotion. I'm going to go myself. He's going to show." Son of a general. Went in. He closed his eyes. When he opened it, you know who was in front of him? St. Peter. A sniper hit him. Just like that. You know, when you go into battle, and you know, they'll teach you this if you study a little bit about military strategy. The moment you become a lieutenant, you're a college degree holder, so you're second lieutenant, they will tell you when they commission you and they send you in the battlefield, you are lieutenant, but listen to your sergeant. Listen to the non-commissioned officers. You know why? Because in the battlefield, these non-coms, they know more than you do. And so because you have privates that you can send out, don't be a braggart. Be patient. Learn the field. Learn the strategy in actual reality. Don't just go in there. Otherwise, zing! He was dead. Immaturity. Therefore, he was given a degree by the Philippine Military Academy, the most prestigious military academy that we have. He was called a future general, and his career is on the right track. Arrogance killed it in the first confrontation. Why? Immature. Now, Paul said this, when you put somebody in leadership, do not put in a neophyte. A neophyte does not necessarily mean newly born again. Okay? John just graduated from Trinity, a neophyte. Now, he may know more academically than a lot of you or most of you. I mean, boy, the guy is tutoring in Greek. So, of course, he knows more than all of you in terms of his. But he just graduated. That is part of a neophyte society. Okay? Now, you can be impatient and say, well, and this is the mistake. Let's put them in charge of this, in charge of a church. Boy, it overwhelmed them. Why? Because you were still a neophyte. Even, I remember when I was about to graduate from college, the professor said, the experienced one, well, you're going to have your degree in engineering. It takes 5 years to learn the theory. It takes 6 months to learn the practical aspect of engineering. And they told us, when you go to the field, you may be given a title supervisor, but learn from the foot engineers. Learn from the electricians. Learn from those who install the wires. And the professors will tell us, because you don't know it, you may get electrocuted. You have the degree, but you are a neophyte. Learn the system. We were told, 6 months, learn it. Then you can start taking over. That's what Paul meant. Sometimes we admire somebody who's new in the faith and we say, well, listen, let's put them in charge. They are highly educated. They look impressive. They look charismatic. Big mistake. To bring this point across, Paul used some language that may not be acceptable even for the people of that day. As long as the heir is a child, he does not differ from a slave. I told you about my first partner. I don't even know her first name. I just call her Sister Santiago. From the Quezon province, he's got acres and acres of land. She even told me this. She wanted to regain her property. She was the sole heir. They own some ships for transportation and cargo. And she told me this when we met. She was already in her 70s. She said, we own some valleys in Quezon province. And she told me this because the Lord allowed us to cross our paths. She told me this, I was a young girl when my father died. She said, I'm not even in first grade. She said, being a young girl, the caretaker of all the property is my uncle. And she told me this in the millions. We have tons of properties. So she said, you know what my uncle did? From childhood to the age of 9, she said, my uncle did not send me to school. My uncle imprisoned me in our own house. She said, I can barely see sunlight. She said, because if I don't know how to read, if I don't know how to write, I may own all of these, but I do not know. Well, at the age of 9, she realized what's happening, so she left. She stowed away. You know, I think at 10 she stowed away, and the Lord saved her. But she doesn't know how to read. She doesn't know how to write. So she learned how to sign her name, and the Lord supernaturally taught her how to read the Bible. She can only read the Bible, you know. And then she got born again, and then our paths crossed. And she told me this. She said, I am suing my uncle because she stole all of my inheritance. She was already old when I met her. The uncle is dying. The heirs of the uncle is in line. But she said, I need to sue him because those properties belong to me. I'm the sole heir of my father. Yeah. And by the way, that lady told me this. Brother Jose, when I get my property, I will give you lots of it, you know, because the Lord spoke to her that we'll be connected, and she was my first. The Lord has always given me partners. She was my first partner. But you know, I'm not the one who's going to go after a person like that. So I went to the U.S., I became a pastor in Manila, and never keep in touch with her. She was a housemate. Now, if the devil can keep us immature, it doesn't matter if we are co-heirs with Jesus. We won't know how to handle it. Doesn't matter. If we are co-heirs with Jesus, we wouldn't know how to handle it. That's why sometimes we think that giving money to somebody in need is the best way to shut them up. Sometimes, or most of the time, it's not. If a person is immature, they will waste anything that you give them. If the person doesn't have the growth and the maturity, they will waste everything. They wouldn't know how to use it. Oil has been around for so long. I've read this story. I think it was the Romans or somebody, the Greeks. They were in the beach, and one of the soldiers looked at the water and says, what is this? Black. And it's oil. That's how oil supposedly was discovered. And they begin to find out oil has always been there. But human knowledge is so immature, we don't know how to use oil. And even when we know how to use oil, we don't know how to purify it, how to make it cleaner. We are just coming to growth and maturity on how to have clean oil, clean diesel, clean everything, you see. But we have been using this for over 100 years. I mean, the maturity is needed to be able to handle things. So what happens when you don't mature? Delay. Say delay. The Jews should have been mature by the time of Jesus. Here the guardian is the law. The reason why the law is given is to mature them. Look at this. The law says the following things. Don't do this, don't do that, do this, do that. Who talks like that to you? Huh? Ten Commandments, right? Don't do this, don't do that. Who talks like that to you? Your parents. When did they talk to you like that? When you were a child. Yeah. I don't know when was the last time my mother told me or said, don't do this, don't do that. My relationship with my parents have changed years ago, couple of decades ago. When I was a little kid, Jose, take a shower. You know. Jose, clean the dishes. Did you wash your feet? You came from the outside. Jose, you smell like sun. You stink. Take a shower. When I was a little kid. But when I was in high school, just high school, they stopped telling me that. My mother doesn't tell me anymore, take a shower. You know why? Because I can smell myself. You know how immature you are if you can smell yourself and you stink and you don't take a shower? That's immature. Decades ago, my mother stopped telling me, take a shower. In fact, when you are a child, hey, this is your responsibility. Follow up. Did you do this? Did you wash the dishes? Did you throw the garbage? That's immature. When you are mature, you just do your job. You just do your job. You just do your job. Nobody tells me, Pastor said, did you write your sermon? Did you study? I just study all the time. It became part. I studied how to study the Bible, how to interpret the Bible. I have the rules. If you tell me what are the rules of interpretation, I can tell them to you. Not in order, but I know them by heart. But you know, when I'm studying, I don't say, first I read, second I observe. All just come together naturally for me now. Why? I have the maturity. I can even teach those courses. But when somebody needs to keep telling you, do the following things, you're mature. Now, you will understand what Paul said in Hebrews. Somebody needs to teach you the elementary doctrines all over again. You know what Paul is telling the Hebrews? You're a child. You know, you are a child. I mean, Jose woke up this morning. Did your mom have to tell you brush your teeth? Good. But if you are 3-year-old, 4-year-old, you wake up, your mom will tell you, brush your teeth. Why? Because you're immature. But boy, you are grown up now. You know, you're responsible now. Nobody tells you brush your teeth. That's part of maturity. The law is like that. The law needs to be set up in such a way as do not eat this, do not eat that. Do the following things. You know, when you mature, you don't even memorize the 10 Commandments. It's just there. It's just there. You are being tempted to look at another man's wife. You know what you say? No. It's there. That's what the Bible says. It's written in your heart. How do we say today? I know it by heart. You see, the Bible is like that. It's human language. When it says written in your heart, I know it by heart. That's the equivalent of that today. When somebody needs to teach you. Look, what's quadratic equation? You see? Why? You don't practice it. But if I ask Joseph, I will not put him in spot. Joseph, what is quadratic? If he doesn't know it, I'm going to throw my mic to him. That's elementary. You see, you don't even think that way. You just naturally solve the problem because you don't need to open a book. You just know it by heart. That is the kind of maturity. You know why the law was given? Because Israel was on an infantile stage. What a set of victories they have. The law is, don't do this, don't do that. God is treating them like children. When Jesus came, that's when they were supposed to have grown mature. But what happened when Jesus came? They could not receive him. They could not understand him. Why? They did not mature. You see, I was saying earlier this morning, when you keep doing something and it doesn't work, if you are mature, what do you say? Change it. Doesn't work. Or I must be doing something wrong. Right? Now, if you are following the law, don't do this, don't do that, what will you find out? It doesn't work. I keep violating the law. I keep going over the line. And so the language of Paul says, who will rescue me? Romans chapter 7. Who will rescue me from this? Thanks be to God through Jesus Christ. When Jesus came, that's the point of maturity. You should just have said, I could not do it on my own. I am helpless. I am powerless. I need Jesus. That's coming to maturity. But when you say, I can do it on my own, I can do it on my own, it's just like somebody's trying to help you. I can help you. I can do it on my own. I can help you. I can do it on my own. Have you tried to help somebody and they are just so eager to take over right away? They don't know it, but they want to take over. That's immaturity. Because a mature person will even say, can you repeat that? Can you show it to me again? Can you show it to me again? You want to be sure. That is a mature disposition. You don't even hide things because you know when you make a mistake, you're going to be the one who's going to suffer. So we get delay when we don't mature. I told you about, I think the Rockefellers, I think it's stipulated in the will that their children can only receive the inheritance that they have if they finish college. I think some of them I've read if they have an MBA or something like that, because you're dealing with so many millions of dollars during that time. It takes maturity. You cannot receive it. And then if you don't fulfill those things, you have to be 35 years old. Well, because at 35 at least you have a little measure of maturity. You know that you don't just waste your money. Listen, if we don't mature, the inheritance that we will receive will be delayed. Look at Israel right now. Instead of ruling the world is just trying to destroy them because they could not come to maturity. They could not receive Jesus Christ. They keep violating the law. In the same way, if we will just think back, had we been patient? Look, in my days, elementary education is up to 6th grade. Anne, I think, where is Anne? I think Anne you went to 7th grade? I'm older than you, right? So she went to 7th grade. Mine is lack of teachers and lack of money, 6th grade. You know, when I finished elementary, 6 years. Then we have high school. High school is 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. You know how long it took me to finish high school? 4 years. Then I went to college, engineering. 5 years. You know how long it took me to finish college? 5 years. There are certain things I refuse to do because that is part of elementary education. Now, look at this. I went for my master's. MDiv, the longest, 3 years. You know how long I finished it? 3 years. Yeah. But I have matured now. I went for my first doctorate. It took me 10 years. It's embarrassing. But 10 years. Listen, my second doctorate, I know better how to navigate through these things now. My course program should be 3 years. Another 3 years to write my dissertation. You know how long I finished the thing? 2.5 years. The 6-year program, I finished in 2.5 years. You know why? I have matured. I know how to navigate through these things. Every major seminar that I took was a chapter in my dissertation. That's why when I was finalizing my dissertation, I was just editing them. Even my academic dean, I said, how long have you enrolled here? I was just pretending it was so hard, but I already know how to navigate. The 6 years course I finished, 6 years program I finished in 2.5 years. Maturity, you see. Some of you are wondering, why am I not receiving the blessings yet? But have you grown yet? You know how kids are? How come my parents don't trust me? Have you grown yet? Okay, that's immaturity. You give them something, they'll end up wasting it. The number one thing that is delaying us from partaking of the inheritance, immaturity. Look, what did Paul say to the Hebrews? You should be teachers by now, but somebody needs to teach you. You know what? I can say the same thing on this church, especially those who have been with me from the start. Should have been teachers by now. But it takes maturity to do that. It takes responsibility. Incidentally, that is the rebuke that, of course, he gave to the Hebrews. Let me read that to you. Hebrews 5, verse 11. Concerning him, we have much to say, and it is hard to explain. Since you have become dull of hearing, for though by this time you ought to be teachers, you have need again for someone to teach you the elementary principles of the oracles of God. And you have come to need milk and not solid food. You have been dull of hearing. When something is sharp and it becomes dull, what happened? Because it's not used properly. Okay. These Hebrews had been listening to the teaching of the Word of God. At one time, they were perceptive. At one time, they say, I'll ignore it. What happened? They become dull of hearing. You parents, have you ever asked your children to do something and they repeatedly ignore it? You know what that means? It doesn't mean they're not hearing you. They have been so used to listening to and not obeying, you have become dull. Now, sometimes children are so arrogant and proud. Oh, my mom, my dad keeps repeating the same thing, and they mumble words, keep repeating the same thing. You know why? You're dull. Because if you have matured, when you were told it's the right thing, you should have done that right away. But as parents, we find it necessary to keep repeating the same thing. 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 But they have been so used to ignoring, they become dull. It bounces off. The parents say this, pasok dito, labas doon. You know, buti kung ganon. Sometimes, papunta rito, talbog doon. It becomes dull. Right? And so the parents are wondering, ano bang gagawin ko? Upakan mo. They become dull of hearing. And so that's the frustration. And the parents are saying, just listen. I know what I'm talking about. Just listen. But they become dull of hearing. And somebody needs to teach them all over again. So that child rebelled, went to another place, went to another family. Guess what the new family will be saying? The same thing. Because brushing your teeth is brushing your teeth. Taking a shower is taking a shower. Listen, if you smell, I say, okay lang, magpabango na lang ako. No, you smell, take a shower. That's a mature disposition. You take a shower. Huwag kang mag-imbak ng libag. Pwede ka pa magtanim ng luya. You know, the moment you smell yourself, you take a shower. That's a mature disposition. Boy, you look at children, especially those who are not potty trained or just beginning to use the potty, you don't watch them. They sit on the bowl, they're done, they get the toilet paper and they wipe it a little bit. I'm done. And you can see something is dripping. And they are ready to play. And they have no underwear. They sat down. All the marks are there. What happened? Immaturity. Maturity. You see. And this is what's going on spiritually when we don't pay attention. Another interesting thing about child in the passage is its application. It is not referring actually to a child because they are grown up, as a minor, but mentally a child. Paul is telling the Hebrews, you should be teachers by now. Telling the Corinthians, you are children, but these are grown-ups. These are grown-ups. Meaning they have grown up, but mentally a child. Who is this, Sister Annie? Remember, I don't know who is that who fought with your son, Edward. Now this is a guy who is married, fought with his son. Over what? Nintendo game. They fought. I asked, why did you fight? No, the other guy is married with the child. I said, why did you hit him? Well, Pastor, he told me he's got the latest model of Nintendo. He does. I said, what? A married man fighting over Nintendo games. Grown up. You know what that is? Grown mind of a child. And so sometimes, and you wonder, how come they're not benefiting? But there are some people who are still young, but have mature disposition. And they are being given more responsibility. Are you following me? You see, sometimes you say, Lord, how long? Well, are you growing up? Are you responsible? Because this is not referring to a minor. This is referring to somebody who is mentally immature. Now, let us look at the idea of a guardian. I said this, well, the guardian is the law. Don't do this, don't do that. Okay? My mother doesn't call me every day. Jose, did you take a shower? Did you brush your teeth? No. It's part of my system already. Okay. If I feel a little bit smelly, take a shower. If it's hot outside and you go out, have you noticed you expose yourself to sunlight for a couple of minutes, you come back inside the house, you smell yourself. You smell. Now, if you smell, you can put cologne or perfume. It will cover it. You're still dirty. You're still dirty. Maybe that's why the Europeans like a lot of perfume. They don't take a shower every day. You know, they take 2 or 3 showers every week. So they really, that is dirty. You know. But here in America, we're trained to have proper hygiene. In the Philippines, because of the temperature, I take a shower twice a day. Lumabas ka lang. You don't say, well, I already take a shower. You know. Now, when I take a shower, you know what I do? I take in new shirts. I don't understand these people. They take a shower and they take the old shirt. Unless you have no more shirt. But normally, you take in new shirt. Why? Because the stench is on that old shirt. It will be on your body right away. But if you are mature, you don't consider that. You take a shower, you say, give me my new clothes. You're about to take a shower. You see? For a child, you keep reminding, that is the value of a guardian. We'll go home tonight. My wife will prepare dinner. consistent. This is consistent. When we get home, Anne will look at James and Joel. And she will have the same question every day. Do you have homework? Now, this is an amazing thing about children. They will say, I am done. At 10, my wife, do you have homework? The I am done is, I'm almost done. Now that is different. From I am done, I'm almost done. At 11, my wife will ask again the question, did you do your homework? I have a little bit more to do. At 12, my wife will no longer ask. My wife will be screaming, and my kids, and they'll be rushing, they'll be crying. What happened? Because they're kids. They're kids. But if you are grown up, for goodness sake, you're in college, nobody should be asking you, did you do your homework? Why? You are in college. You know in Tagalog what college is? Ang tawag doon, nagpapakadalubhasa. Yeah. So, Epifanio, my high school, Epifanio de los Santos College, it's dalubhasang paaralan. When you go to college, nagpapakadalubhasa. That's Tagalog. You know what dalubhasa is? You are like becoming a master now. An expert. Dalubhasa. Now, if you are an expert, somebody is checking on your homework. You're in elementary. At a certain point when you're studying, nobody should check on your homework. You are just doing it. You know. Same thing with Christianity. Now, can you imagine this? Somebody is checking on you. Are you still having your devotion? That's immaturity. Because if devotion is like breakfast, you know you have to eat. Can you imagine somebody say, are you still praying? It's like brushing your teeth. Can you imagine you have been a Christian for 20 years and somebody is asking you, are you still praying? If somebody has to check you, you're still praying, that's immaturity. Now how about this? Are you paying your tithes? Are you witnessing? If somebody has to check you on these things, that's immaturity. These are the basic things. Maybe you will be reminded. Now, can you imagine this? You are renting or you own a house. Did somebody have to tell you have to pay your bills every month? You know you're not going to have utilities if you don't pay your bill. You naturally allocate. Why? Because you have the maturity. That's why if you are a parent, you are mature, you don't say, I'm going to buy new shoes, I'm going to buy this. You say, how much is my mobile phone? How much is my electricity? How much is my gas? How much is a food budget? After you do all of that, you say, do I have leftover? Then you decide whether you will buy extra. Immaturity is, bahala na. I'll buy them first. So you run out of money, even though you're supposed to have money for those things. In the kingdom of God, it is the same principle. Oh, how we dream of our kids becoming successful. But are we allowing them to go through the elementary teachings? Responsibility, industry, faithfulness, punctuality, discipline. All of these are necessary ingredients. When I was in 4th grade, my kuya was, I think, already in college, in vocational school, and I think he's about to begin to work. My mother is tired in the house, so somebody has to prepare breakfast for my kuya. I was 4th grade. Somebody has to prepare breakfast, and buy freshly baked bread from the bakery store. And that's Philippines because we have no refrigerator. It was a squatter area. It was slum area. So everything has to be brought fresh. Somebody has to wake up at 4 a.m. Guess whose job is that? That's mine. It was fourth grade. I wake up early in the morning. I cook breakfast for my kuya. I prepare his packed lunch. I cook them. I prepare them for him. 4 a.m. If I don't wake up at 4, my kuya was very mean. Sometimes he will grab my hair and pull it up to wake me up. Because he's very tired also. Why? He has to leave at around 5. Why? Traffic. He's going to work in Pasig. Work starts at 7 a.m. He's got to wake up early. That was my routine since I was in fourth grade. So I'm sleeping less, waking up early. Guess what? I never lost the habit. You know, sometimes I'll be very tired. If I stay in bed for 8 hours, you know what happens to my back? I have back pain. I cannot lay down on my back for so long. I'm used to it. Some people, they can be on their bed for 20 hours. They don't even know the calendar date already changed. Yeah. Because they're so used to it. Meaning, because I have developed the discipline and the rigors of hard work and all of that thing, that's no contest. And because of that, then I can absorb certain things. I can be entrusted with certain things. That's why my wife is a hard worker also. It's built in her system, in her foundation. To threaten me and my wife with salary, with money, that's a joke. We both know we can make money. It's just something that we know we can make money. It's built in. Some people will be accepting the job. That's not a concern that we, especially my wife, that is not a concern that we have. Some people are very concerned, am I going to be hired? That's not a concern to us. Because she had always made more money. I have always worked since I was a little kid. You know, that's why it's not a big deal. It's built in. Now, when something is built in like that to you, then you have prepared yourself. If you don't know something, do you have the discipline of being a student? Meaning, if you don't know something, can you open some manuals, can you open some books and learn it? But if you don't have a discipline, you don't have it. Therefore, you will not progress. That's why if you are a high school graduate, you join the military, the highest rank you can achieve, Master Sergeant. You want to be promoted to a major, you need to have an MBA, a master's degree. You want to be a general, listen to this, you want to be a general? You got to have a PhD. All of those generals, even in the Philippines, all of those generals, they have PhD. Even Bato, akala nyo criminal lang yun. That guy has a PhD. Yeah. Because you can't be promoted into a general unless you have a PhD. Because you need to have the intellectual maturity, you need to have the ability to manage, to earn these things. But you don't want that. You don't want to go to college. Master Sergeant. Yeah. Well, if there's war, I can be promoted. Yes, there's such a thing as a war commission. While there is war, after the war, go back to your old rank. Because they recognize that certain maturity is needed for certain positions. In the body of Christ, it is the same. 1 Corinthians 4:1, let a man regard us in this manner, as servants of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. In this case, moreover, it is required of stewards that one be found trustworthy. This is why we are given guardians. Children have guardians, their parents. If their parents die or abandon them, they're given guardians. Why? Because everybody knows a child cannot be left to fend for themselves. You need a guardian. And the church, you know, years ago there was this idea, everybody can pastor. That's a lie. God gave the church guardians. Who are the guardians? Paul puts it this way, those in the ministry. That's why you cannot have an immature take care of another immature. Now, I was very touched by the story of Bishop Cabrera. She's got a younger sister. They were Missions of Mercy, helped them out. Their father abandoned them. His father has I think, a different wife. You know. So just abandoned them. And Bishop Cabrera told me this. He said, "Oh, I have to work hard because of my sister." And said, "I can't fend for my sister because I'm also a little boy." So they found this Missions of Mercy, and he told me this. In Missions of Mercy, there has to be a guardian who will turn over the child. So he said, at the age of 9, I became a father to my sister. He said, I can't take care of her. So I signed her up. I signed up as her guardian. You know, the legalities in the Philippines, there's no legalities like that. He was forced into it. But thank God, the mercy of God arrested them. In any church, you need to have a pastor. In any family, you need to have a mother or a father or a grandma or a guardian. Because the kids cannot take care of themselves. That's why you should value the times when you are being taught the elementary doctrines. If you don't take it to heart, then it will just be repeated. I told you this morning in Roman culture, a tutor is assigned until the age of 14. The education in those days is different from today. They have no bachelor's, they have no high school. So a tutor will teach a little child how to read, how to write, and even at a young age will begin to teach him contract, negotiations, until the age of 14. At the age of 14, of course, he's already a man in the Roman law, but he's still young. So then he will be assigned to a curator. Like another manager, a curator, until the age of 25. Now the Romans, they may be eating organic food, but because of war and all kinds of promiscuity, they die young. So at the age of 25, a person in those days is already mature. He's got kids already. At the age of 25, the curator stops. If at the age of 25, you cannot still manage the wealth that you have, then you deserve to go bankrupt. I mean, there's nothing more that society can do for you. You refuse to mature. Now, there are people who refuse to mature. You know, as a pastor, because this is my business, I go back to the Philippines. We have pastors who are already aging. They still don't know the value of studying. They still don't know the value of having good management in the church. They still don't know the value of how to handle money. Some of the pastors that I've met, they just allow their board to handle the money. That is not biblical. And they say, because I don't know, why don't you learn it? Therefore, hanggang doon na lang. You know where you will stop in receiving your, or partaking of your inheritance in the saints? Where you want to stop. This coming summer, next summer, not this summer, next summer, I'm going to go back to Israel. I'm going to be there for 5 weeks. I'm going to be studying again. Never lost it. I'm still a student to this day. Even though I have achieved many academic things already, I still am a learner. If I am young, I'm telling you this after knowing what I know right now, I'm going to go to school again. If I'm still young, probably I'll take law, but I'm already old. No use anymore. I still have that hunger. But if you lose the hunger, kung hanggang dyan ka na lang, hanggang dyan ka na lang. Remember what I told you guys when we first became a church? In 2 years, God will give us our first building. We have it. By the way, when the time comes for us, we should have gotten a bigger property. I'm telling you, the police station there by Milwaukee and Central, that was being offered to me for $720,000. I saw the property. I said, I don't have a house. I told myself, I can buy this. You know, my only weakness, I don't have credit history. I was hoping my board was mature enough, because they have the equity, to tell me, Pastors say we can handle this. They're all immature, all scared. They don't even want to give. But by the grace of God, we were able to get that $337,000 property. On our first service, I said, within 5 years, God will give us our next building. We got this. We got this. So I have a board. You know, they only approved me to begin with, for $750,000. They say, pastors then negotiate for $750,000. I said, $750,000? By this time, I'm more forceful. I'm more willful. I know if I wait for some people, nothing is going to happen. The building that we're trying to buy, our size is around $2.5 million. This is $2.5 million. 2.5 is what I saw in the offer, or 2.4, something like that. This is over $2 million. I was only authorized for $700,000. So I went back to the board and I said, hey, listen, we need to put more money. They allow $1 million. But I look at my leaders. Boy, I said, the equity is more than enough. I start scrambling for people to co-sign. Because I don't have that much net worth. But you know, in my faith, I knew we can do it. Yeah. And I said in our first service here, within 5 years, if we are faithful, God is going to give us new opportunity. We have a plan. If people pay their tithes at a certain rate, we'll be able to pay the building within 2 years. Then I can save money for the next building. Because God put it in my heart. Within 5 years, that building in La Crosse opened up. You know what we have? Nothing. Because this is the budget that we agreed in our business meeting we should reach. I was only collecting this much, managing it. So everybody agreed as to be paid, but nobody wants to take the responsibility to step in faith and say, we're going to do this. So that opportunity came, and I saw it pass me by. Yeah. I saw it pass me by. That's why I told you there's still another building. That's what God put in my heart. What am I saying? You want to affect our city, this church? The maturity has got to be not only from me or the leadership. It's got to be from everybody. You know why Israel was not able to possess the promised land? Because Joshua and Caleb has the maturity. The people don't have it. They were given a little corner and they say, enough! Okay na sa atin, enough! So they did not move further. And in the book of Joshua it says, there is still much land yet to be conquered. Why did they not conquer it? Immature. A child eats chocolate, okay? Eats hamburger. And said, I'm happy. The dad says, child, there's much more than that. You need to grow up. You need to mature. You need to finish college. You need to be able to. No, I'm happy. Parents, you love me. I eat every day. I'm happy. Listen, all my kids can eat every day in my house. But if they want to be fulfilled, they need to make some money for themselves. They need to study. They need to be able to buy their own house. They need to be able to do the following things. That's part of maturity. Now, for as long as I'm alive and my wife, they can stay in the house and eat. But guess what? They will remain babies. They will remain babies. No problem with me helping them for the rest of my life. But if they become dependent on me for the rest of their lives or my life, that means they will remain babies. There comes a point, a child says, I'm grown up now. I'm taking responsibilities. I'm going to work hard. That is the joy of the parents. Now, if you become like that, then you are the person who takes charge. Remember when I was seriously, years ago, I really want to go back to the Philippines after I graduated. And my wife told me, especially when things were not working properly, I told my wife, I need to go back to the Philippines. My wife told me this. She said, you want to go back to the Philippines? He said, you cannot go back the way you were before. I said, what do you mean? Well, allow me to do one thing. I said, what? Allow me to start my own business. I said, why, Ann? She said, because I don't want you to be dependent on anybody for money. I want you to be able to work and live anytime you want and do whatever God wants you to do. So she said, allow me to open my own business. So I told her, sure. But she didn't say, I don't know what we're going to eat. She knows how to make money. Yeah. That's why our problem is whether or not we can make money. My problem is whether I'm going to stop my wife from making money. She can make money. She has that maturity. You know. She has the foundation. She has the training. So the question to you is this. You want to walk in your inheritance. Have you grown? Now, I have no choice but to put forth myself as an example on this one. Listen, grew up in the slums. Most of you have more chances in life than I did. But I took it by the horn. You know, when I have to tighten my belt, I tighten my belt. When I have to work and sleep less, I did that. I have the foundation. I took responsibility. I got married. How much money I have? $167 in my pocket. I got married with that. Some of you, when you get married, you have more money than I did. You know. The little money that we have, invest in that house. My wife just don't want to sell that. I sell that thing. I'll probably be able to sell it for $1 million. Be able to pay up all my debts and have enough money to buy another house cash. That's how much I have grown. When we started this church, almost every offering was going to the rental of the 3 storefronts besides Martino's. Those 3 storefronts are always not working. But I rented 3 storefronts, almost 75%. They're barely paying for my apartment. My wife has to work to put food on my table. Guess how much our property has grown? This is over $2 million. Yeah. We have a little over $200,000 left on the mortgage. We have grown what we have been given. On top of that, we're doing missions. On top of that, we're doing this, we're doing that. We have grown what we have. Amen? That's what I'm talking about. We have the maturity to now apply the same thing to you. Do whatever it takes. Grow. Then be able to receive more from God. Because if you don't grow and you want to receive more from God, you're going to waste it. You're just going to waste it. And if you don't even know how to negotiate. I mean, we have a member before, his car broke down, went to a car dealership, walked out with a new car. I said, what in the world did you do? Well, I got it cheap. No, you don't have to negotiate. You're just supposed to have the car fixed for $100. You went out with a new car. That means you don't know how to make decisions. You see? These are the things that determines whether you can handle more inheritance. Now, the inheritance are yours. But are you a child? Do you still need a guardian? That determines how much you will possess. Amen.